Hi, I'm Gina. I am an alcoholic drug addict in recovery for a little over 2 years now. My story starts back when I was born in 1990. We always went to church, as far as I remember. We stayed very involved in church until there was an incident and we left the church. We were pushed out of the church. And I think when we left that church, it really had a big impact on me, bigger impact than I really had thought. We stopped going to church, but I started going to a youth group. I was really involved in that until I got into an inappropriate relationship, and then everybody I was like disowned. I was kind of pushed out. And so that really set the precipice for me just kind of going astray. Mind you, throughout all of that, starting in middle school through high school, I had a lot of mental health issues. So I also kind of felt disassociated from God in that manner as well. Because, I didn't understand why that loving God would, make us suffer so much. I didn't understand wanting to hurt myself or never feeling good enough. That was always a struggle. That was always a stronghold over my life. So even when I wasn't in active addiction, that was something that I struggled really hard with. Fast forward a couple of years, I was living down in Tennessee and my now husband came down to be with me, and I didn't realize he was in active addiction when he came. And he brought his addiction with him. And for the first time, I started drinking and drugging, and I realized, wow, I can feel something. I can be somebody. I can, I don't have to hurt like this. I can numb it. And about 1.5 years, 2 years later, my little brother passed away unexpectedly. There was an accident. And that was when I really, I shut out God completely. There was no room left for him. At that point, God died to me. God would not take a 17-year-old little boy from his family, and that was just not fair. The loving God that I had grown up with, that I thought I knew, wouldn't do that. At that point, as if I wasn't trying to numb it all already, now I'm just trying to really forget everything. And we went into party mode for the next couple of years, and we were hanging out with some friends, and I wound up being sexually assaulted by somebody very close to my husband and I. And that broke that last piece that I was hanging on to, that last piece that kept any semblance of sanity. And I hid it for 3 years. It took about 1 year after that. I tried to take my own life. I got to the point where, I just gave up, and then got back into active addiction. My husband and I had a pretty long weekend, and everything came out at the end of that weekend. All of the hurt and the pain and everything that I had hidden, all the dark, dirty secrets that were destroying my marriage, that were destroying me, that made me want to die, that made me half of a human being. I was a shell of a human being. And after all of that came out, 2 days later, he tried to kill himself. And the primer struck the bullet, but the bullet didn't go off. And in that, we found God. We didn't know it yet, but that was the moment that we found God. And then we got into sobriety. My husband went to rehab, and through sobriety, he found a group of men that went to this church on Sundays and got really involved with them. And it saved my life, because through him going to church and finding God, I saw a change. Eventually, he drugged me to church, and I still wasn't quite there yet, but I started becoming open. Really, something just started changing inside of me, and next thing you know, I'm going to church on a regular basis with him, and I'm like openly searching, and God is putting more and more people in my life. And then one night I was laying in bed after a long search I knew had come to an end, and I just prayed. I said, Jesus, I don't want to doubt you anymore. I don't want to doubt you anymore. And in that moment, in my dark bedroom with my eyes closed, I just saw his face. And I can't doubt him anymore. And since then, he has transformed my life, leaps and bounds that I never would have imagined. I haven't seen in other people in 10, 20 years of sobriety. Like these trends, I look at myself and I'm like, am I supposed to be changing this quickly? But it's not me. It's the Holy Spirit that now dwells in me. Since then, the difference, Recovery Church has become such an integral part of my journey. Everything that we've been able to do for the church and that the church has done for us, just all of it, it's become my family. It's become my second home. When I think of anything that I've endured, anything that I've gone through, I have to know that it's for a purpose. I have to know that God's will is divine and he knows everything from beginning to end. He wrote the story, and if it's just for me to tell my story to help the next person, then that's enough for me. So if you ever have a day that you can't get up and that you can't go forward and move on, just remember that He's there, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.